Welcome, lords and ladies, back to the realm. I am your humble host, the Goat King, and today we explore Snares in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Today we gather our material from several sources: the core rulebook, Advanced Player's Guide, Guns and Gears, and Lost Omen's Grand Bazaar. There are two things every snare enthusiastic adventurer needs: a basic snare kit for 5 gold pieces, and the Snare Crafter's skill feat. While Snare Crafter is a level 1 skill feat, most characters won't be able to touch it till 2nd level. Rogues who gain a skill feat at every level can pick up Snare Crafter early. Versatile heritage humans, or those that take the general training ancestry feat, can snag Snare Crafter with a general feat. Most interesting, however, is the 1st level Kobold ancestry feat, Snare Setter. This feat gets you Snare Crafter and access to Kobold-specific snares. Crafting snares works a lot like crafting other items, with a few small changes. Most snares take only 1 minute to craft. You must provide the full cost of materials, and you must craft the snare in place, in a 5-foot square, as a snare can't be moved without destroying it. Optionally, snares can be crafted through downtime to gain the material discount for spending extra time crafting. However, they must still be crafted in place. Detecting a snare set up in the environment has a lot more to do with the skill of the crafter than the level of the trap. A snare's stealth DC is equal to the crafter's crafting DC. Snares crafted by an expert or greater require active searching to detect. Additionally, a character with a perception proficiency more than 1 rank lower than the crafting proficiency of the crafter cannot detect the snare. Failing to detect a snare is often followed by triggering the snare. Snares trigger when a creature who is small or larger enters the snare's space. The snare is then destroyed. But if you're lucky and observant, you can attempt to disarm a trap rather than stumble into it. A snare can be disarmed with a successful attempt to disable a device. Disabling a snare relates to the crafting DC and proficiency in the same way as detecting a snare. The person who set the snare, however, can disable it with a single interact action and no skill check. Alternatively, if you are a snare crafting fellow yourself and you stumble upon a snare for which you don't have a formula, you can attempt to slowly take it apart to learn the formula. For most traps, this would require a minute and a crafting check, usually against a level-based DC. As this is a bit of a gray area, your GM might first require you to disable the trap with Disable a Device, or they may cause you to trigger the snare on a failure or critical failure on your attempt to deconstruct it for its formula. Of course, if you want to make snare crafting a more important part of your character, we have options for that too. We've already seen how kobolds have an affinity for snares. At 5th level, the ancestry feat Snare Genius allows a kobold to prepare snares for quick deployment during daily preparation. These snares can be set up with 3 interact actions and have no material cost. Additionally, creatures that critically fail a save against your damaging snares become flat-footed for 1 round. While I don't want to make this a video about kobolds, I do want to tell you, Lost Omen's Ancestry Guide contains more options for our trap-setting friends. But as long as we're talking about the iconic crafters of traps and snares, we shouldn't forget the ranger. Despite it being a natural fit, snare crafting is not a core mechanic of the class. You need not despair, however, as rangers have a variety of class feats that make them excellent snare crafters if you choose to focus on them. The level 4 feat Snare Specialist requires your character to be an expert in crafting and have the snare crafting skill feat. You gain the formula for 3 common or uncommon snares. This expands by 3 when you become master in crafting, and again when you become legendary. During your daily preparations, you can prepare 4 snares for quick deployment. This expands by 2 when you become master in crafting, and again when you become legendary. Snares you prepare cost nothing and can be crafted as a 3-action activity rather than taking 1 minute. At 6th level, you can take quick snares. This allows you to craft most snares with 3 actions, not just your prepared snares. However, they will still require a crafting check and materials. At 8th level, once you master crafting, you can take powerful snares. With this feat, all of your snares use the higher of your class DC or their save DC as their save DC, allowing you to use your lower level and lower cost snares at higher levels. Lightning Snares at 12th level allows a master crafter to expand on quick snares. With Lightning Snares, you can craft a snare as a single action. The last Ranger snare feat from the core rulebook is Ubiquitous Snares. At level 16, this feat doubles the number of prepared snares from Snare Specialist. The Advanced Player's Guide offers a few more snare-related Ranger feats. Snare Hopping is a 2nd level feat that requires the snare crafting skill feat and warden spells. The Snare Hopping focus spell teleports a misplaced snare a short distance to an unoccupied space. Impossible Snares at level 20 requires Ubiquitous Snares. Once per minute, you can craft a free snare without expending your prepared snares. Snares crafted in this way last 10 minutes. Perhaps you don't want to play a ranger. Thankfully, the Snare Crafter archetype allows you to add snare crafting to any class. It also stacks with the ranger if you want to go all in on snare crafting. The dedication, available at 2nd level, requires you be trained in crafting and have the snare crafting skill feat. The dedication allows you to prepare 4 snares for quick deployment. This expands to 6 when you become Master Crafter, and to 8 when you become Legendary. This dedication counts as Snare Specialist for the purpose of feat prerequisites. The level 4 feat Surprise Snare allows you to deploy one of your snares in an enemy space as a 3-action activity. The snare automatically triggers, but it takes a -2 penalty to its save DCs, attack rolls, or checks. Remote Trigger becomes available at 6th level. This feat allows you to trigger snares from a distance with a ranged attack. If you are targeting one of your own snares, you hit automatically. If you are targeting somebody else's snare, attempt an attack roll against the crafting DC, triggering the snare on a success. Quick snares can be taken as part of the archetype at level 8, and powerful snares can be taken as part of the archetype at level 10. Giant Snare becomes available at level 10 and allows you to create giant snares when preparing your snares. Preparing a giant snare counts as 2 prepared snares. A giant snare takes up a 10-foot by 10-foot space, triggers from a creature entering any portion of that space, and exerts its effects over the whole space. At level 12, Plentiful Snares doubles the number of prepared snares granted by the dedication. Lightning Snares can be taken as part of the archetype at level 14. That covers all the conventional snare options, but you might not be playing in a standard fantasy setting. The Guns and Gears book provides options for more technologically advanced settings. The Trapsmith archetype is one of these options. The Trapsmith dedication requires either the Snarecrafter dedication or Snare Specialist as a prerequisite. The Trapsmith dedication can be taken even if the feat minimum for Snarecrafter has not yet been met. This feat allows you to add a clockwork device to your snares that impedes the triggering creature's vision when they fail their save against the trap's effects. Recycled Cogwheels at level 8 allows you to reclaim untriggered prepared snares. Repurposed Parts at level 10 allows you to expend 2 prepared snares to craft a snare you hadn't prepared. Finessed Features at level 12 is the pinnacle of clockwork snare crafting. This feat allows you to create snares that trigger based on visual cues, such as size or color. Trapsmith also includes a few skill feats. These can only be taken by a character with the Trapsmith dedication feat. Gear Nash at 4th level, your snares require an additional thievery check to disable, with the failure effect of dealing bludgeoning damage to the creature attempting the check. Propeller Attachment at 7th level is the last feat for Trapsmith. You can deploy your snares in air or water and expect them to stay in place, held by clockwork propellers. These snares only last 10 minutes and are usually difficult to hide. Before we wrap up, let's look at just a few examples of snares, the ones that have art. Bomb Snare is level 8 and costly to produce as it requires 3 alchemical bombs in addition to its price. This is a small order, however, if your party includes an alchemist. This snare activates all 3 bombs when triggered. Quite the display. The caltrop snare, available at level 1, might sound redundant at first, but it has the neat effect of deploying caltrops in its square or an adjacent square. A perfect opportunity for some clever trap design and misdirection. Those are from the core rulebook, but we can find other options when we go beyond. The Grand Bazaar offers uncommon trap options from its many shops. Deadweight Snare at level 2 combines a net and magnetic weights to tangle and even disarm its victims. Glittering Snare at level 4 is less about hurting the target and more about making them easy to track. Very useful against foes with a tendency to turn invisible. Envenomed Snare, level 7, is a different story, however. This snare requires 2 doses of giant wasp venom to create, and for good reason, as its main goal is to swiftly and painfully deliver that venom to its victim. The Rending Snare, level 14, is our last uncommon snare today. Yeah, that's just a bear trap. Massive damage, persistent bleeding damage, it even applies the clumsy condition. As terrifying as that is, our last example blows it out of the water. Guns and Gears gives us this beauty. The Death Coil is a level 20 rare snare. The Death Coil doesn't trigger when a creature enters its space. Instead, it triggers when at least 3 creatures are within 20 feet of it, or 1 creature stays within 20 feet of it for longer than 1 round. If that doesn't wake you up, I don't know what will. Thank you all for visiting the realm and for sticking with me during the busy holidays. I've been your host, the Goat King, and as always, travel with loyal companions.